Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. There is only one hot topic in European football today, and that is the future of Lionel Messi. Now, we have to own up, we were planning on doing a European preview show with Zach Lowy, the Twitter analyst and creator of Breaking the Lines, but we might be able to put that out next week. There's some technical difficulties with that, but either way, it's kind of been surpassed by the Messi news. I mean, we've got another Zach here in Zach Jalab. Zach, welcome to the show. How are you? How are you digesting this news?
Mate, quite shocked. I mean, I can't put into words, lads, how I don't understand a single word they're saying, but El Chiringuito is my favourite thing in the world. They have lost their heads, and obviously, you know, it's not a surprise. But yeah, no, I'm well, mate. And to be fair, I'm still collecting my own thoughts over this.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Despite having a year to prepare for this, I didn't actually think it would come to this. I mean, McCubs, we did this whole thing in 2020 as well, but this time it feels maybe a little bit more real.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I was away actually from the office, or from the proverbial office, when this happened in 2020. I was kind of away from it all, so I was kind of able to digest it, while having my eye off it in some ways. But yeah, this time it's really surreal. Just how sudden it was, you know, having come up just after a day when, you know, Laporta and kind of every journalist was kind of saying that, you know, the deal was about to be done. I mean, yeah, it just hasn't sunk in yet. You know, as someone personally who's been following Barcelona for, you know, almost my whole life, it just seems mad that this figurehead who has been, you know, so central to the club for the last 15, 16 years is going to leave. And yeah, so it just hasn't sunk in yet. It really hasn't sunk in yet. I feel like it's the sort of thing that will start to sink in when we don't see him on the team sheet and we see Barcelona try and construct a system which doesn't account for him, which just seems mad, doesn't it? Like, it just seems absolutely mad. But yeah, still in slight shock from yesterday for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, to recap, we'll hopefully get that European preview with Zach Lowy to you in a few weeks' time. But for now, it's all about Messi. But if you've been living under a rock, I'll briefly explain what has happened. So at 8 p.m. yesterday, Barcelona released a statement on Thursday, that said Messi shall not be staying. He's obviously been a free agent since his contract expired on the 1st of July, but the club always insisted he would be staying. Juan Laporta was very insistent on that. Messi apparently really wants to stay, but it just doesn't seem possible. Earlier in August, Guillem Balaguer, the Spanish football correspondent, revealed Messi was set to sign a 5-year deal on half his original salary. That was backed up by journalists like Fabrizio Romano. Most people seemed to think that they would come to some agreement and it was going to be pretty imminent. But, as we all know, in order to meet La Liga's financial fair play regulations, they had to reduce their wage bill by 200 million euros, which is 172 million pounds. And thus far, they haven't managed to offload any of Griezmann, Dembele, Coutinho, the big earners that we thought might be up for sale, maybe less so Dembele, but definitely Griezmann and Coutinho. The club are all obviously in 1.3 billion euros worth of debt as well. So they needed something to happen, and it's just got to the stage where, in order to meet these regulations, they just simply can't re-sign Messi. The club are trying to blame La Liga. They're basically trying to put them into sort of stranglehold, where they're basically saying, you know, Messi is basically La Liga at this stage. Do you want him to leave? So there feels like there might be a little bit of a power play going on here, Zach, because Barcelona and Real Madrid are still trying to pursue that European Super League. La Liga signed up to this new agreement. What's gone on in the last few days in terms of Barcelona and Real Madrid's relationship with La Liga?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the rocks, to be fair. They're very close to signing a divorce, is the way I'd describe it. As you mentioned, they've just La Liga have just signed a new deal with the investment fund CVC, which would immediately hand Barcelona £200 million, but only 15% of that money can be used for transfers and salaries. And Laporta, who's literally just done an interview, has kind of said that that's not enough. It's not enough for what we've agreed with Messi. Supposedly, Messi had agreed a 50% deal. It's the whole reason that him and his father were in Barcelona in the first place, to sign that new contract. But when it came down to it, even with this new CVC money, just wasn't enough for fair play. it wasn't enough and that they could not sign on it. Now, it was decided by a 12-club committee that didn't include Barcelona or Real Madrid about this CVC deal. They have sold 10% of La Liga to an American investment fund in a 50-year deal. Now, that's how bad La Liga's finances are, accepting 10% less of the league's broadcast and commercial revenue for 50 years. Jesus Christ. But in order to get that money, Barca and Real Madrid needed to sign a long-term commitment to La Liga, basically renouncing the European Super League. Now, within minutes of Barcelona's announcement about Lionel Messi, Real Madrid released a statement saying that the CVC deal was done without the involvement or knowledge of the club, and saying they cannot support the venture. As I said, yeah, the two clubs are very much kind of at war with La Liga. You basically put it exactly how it is. Kind of Barcelona are saying, look, this is all La Liga's fault. If it wasn't for them, we'd be signing Lionel Messi right now. He would have agreed. And there is, like, Laporta said it just not too long ago, like, if maybe La Liga say, okay, we'll let you off for this one, there's a slight chance Messi might sign a new deal, but it looks very unlikely that La Liga will let that happen. Is it Tabas? Is essentially not letting, falling to the pressure of this, even though it looks like Lionel Messi will be leaving. And he says as well in this interview that it's just happened, he says, look, we can't keep playing Messi along here and saying, oh, give us another week, give us another month, give us however long, because he needs to sort out his own future. Apparently the deal was 5 or 6 years with Barcelona, but he was only going to be getting paid for 2 years of it, because he has his own ideas of wanting to play in the MLS eventually, according to Lionel Messi. So yeah, it's bad, mate. It's really bad for the league. I mean, Jesus Christ, a lot of people watch the league just for Lionel Messi.
Absolutely, yeah. It's terrible news for the league, as you say. But McCubs, for Barcelona, as you say, I mean, I'm sure most Barcelona fans are still in shock today. I mean, try and sum up what his potential departure means for the club.
Well, it's just huge, isn't it? And I mean, we've been talking about Barcelona's finances for the last 2-3 years. I think we always kind of thought it would catch up with them in some way, and it has this summer, and it's, you know, the previous board in particular has so much to answer for. Obviously, Josep Bartomeu kind of, you know, very stupidly kind of declared victory when he was able to keep Messi at the club at the end of last summer, even though it was, you know, ultimately against Messi's wishes. You know, and obviously Laporta coming in, who is a friend, you know, a long-time friend of Messi. You know, we thought perhaps he'd be able to do it, but essentially the damage had already been done, and to try and put the blame on La Liga, who have had these strict economic controls in place since 2013, let's remember, and these are economic controls which have helped clubs, smaller clubs at least, keep their finances in check. It meant that last summer that La Liga was, you know, spent very little in the transfer market compared to the rest of Europe's top 5 leagues. It meant that generally clubs saw their revenues fall less than other clubs across Europe. So these are not measures that are just meant to punish clubs. They're measures that are meant to keep clubs financially stable. And, you know, Barca have, you know, over the years, you know, engaged in kind of transfer activity, which and in terms of getting big contracts out and whatnot, that you know, are just not in line with that, even for a club which makes huge revenues. And this has, you know, come to a head in the most dramatic and heartbreaking fashion. At the point where the club's greatest ever player wants to stay but actually can't. It's just, you know, it's just the culmination of years of mismanagement, and it's a massive shame for such a prestigious sporting institution. You know, yeah, Barcelona fans today must just be so upset. I know they've been kind of worn down by the kind of situation at the club over the last year in particular anyway, but I think there's just, there's something, you know, I don't know. It feels like the heart's just been ripped out of the club in a lot of ways, and not just because of Messi, but just the direction the club has been in the last few years. And it's just a shame. And I can't remember who I was seeing on Twitter, but they made the very kind of simple but pertinent point that, like, how on earth was Bartomeu in particular not able to, construct like an amazing side around Messi. Messi was still in his prime 2-3 years ago. Like, how on earth did Barcelona mess this up so much? They had a lot of money to spend, and they could have spent half of that and constructed like a world-beating side around, who in my opinion is by far the greatest player of all time. I mean, it's just mad. But to go into, some of his numbers, we may as well break down, the legacy that he leaves or will potentially leave. I mean, 778 appearances, 672 goals, 305 assists. He won 6 Ballon d'Ors, won 10 La Ligas, 7 Copas del Rey, 4 Champions Leagues, the last of which came in 2015. And yeah, even in a down year last year, he still contributed to 46% of their goals, 39 goals and 9 assists in 35 La Liga games, 5 goals, 2 assists in 6 Champions League games. He took 196 shots in the leagues, which was the best. Griezmann was second on 71. 77 key passes. Alba was next with 53. Completed 159 dribbles. Dembele was next with 63. I mean, it's kind of futile, isn't it, putting what he does into numbers, because it's so much more than that. And I mean, I don't know. I just feel quite privileged to have been able to see him live at the Camp Nou a couple of times.
Don't, Mikey.
So, there you go.
Yeah, but even then, it's like I wasn't paying attention enough. Like, if I'd known the eventuality, I probably would have paid a bit more attention, and maybe not drunk as many Estrella Dams.
Too many Sylvesters.
Yeah, which you can't actually do in the stadium. To be fair, I think it was more before the game. If that's what you're asking, Zach, that is true. You can't get a beer inside the confines of the Camp Nou. But yeah, it's just I still can't process it completely. But what an era that was, wasn't it? The Messi era at the Camp Nou. I mean, just I still remember crystal clear his goal against Real Madrid in that semi-final in 2011 in the Champions League, in what was like one of the worst games of football I've ever seen, considering it was like 2 of the best teams we've ever seen. It was just like foul after foul, dive after dive. There was almost no kind of real, exciting kind of football in open play in that game. And then suddenly, whenever it was it 10 minutes before the end or 20 minutes before the end, Messi just does that 1-2 with Busquets, was it? And takes out about 5-6 players, and it was just done in such a casual manner. It was just magic, man. I think it will go down as one of my favourite ever kind of moments on a football pitch. I don't know about you boys, if you guys have any kind of particular memories of Messi.
I've yet to see him live. Like that was always one of my biggest dreams.
I thought you went with the boys when they beat Man City.
Joe, Chris, and Pat were lucky enough to be there when he scored a hat trick at the Camp Nou against City in the Champions League. But I mean, I've obviously watched him on TV numerous times, and yeah, it's such a every single time he's always doing something every single game that makes you go wow. Like, goodness gracious, that he's just the best ever, isn't he? In my personal opinion, people can say whatever. But it's just, I think it's so sad, man. Like, for a guy that has given so much, done so much for one club, committed to them, and made such a history for them, to go out like this, where no one was expecting it, not even himself, where he doesn't get to have his kind of last game, or where the fans know it's his last game at the stadium. They all get to watch him get that beautiful scene of, I guess, leaving the Camp Nou, probably being lifted by the entire Barca squad, where every single legend that he's ever played with, Xavi, Iniesta, all these guys probably come back to watch him and get on the pitch. Like that kind of, I'm sure he'll have that eventually. Like they'll probably do some sort of what's it called, testimonial game for him and all that kind of stuff. And he's obviously going to be such a legend. I wouldn't be surprised eventually if he retires, whatever, comes back to Barcelona in some way, shape or form. But it's not the same. It's not the same, if you know what I mean. Just having that kind of that feeling, like the last Lionel Messi game for Barcelona we already saw, and God knows what was that, probably one of their last La Liga game, and so just not the same kind of feeling, which is a little sad.
Absolutely. I put it on Twitter last night. I think his last game in front of fans at the Camp Nou was, which not including pre-season, was in March 2020 against Real Sociedad. And they won 1-0 with Messi scoring a penalty. And then here we are today. Like, I do we've got to say that the pandemic has obviously no one could have foreseen the pandemic in terms of what it's done to Barcelona's finances, but you've got to have some sort of, the finances can't be that tight that they can just collapse without a year or 18 months worth of revenue into 1.3 billion euros worth of debt. Like, they were so badly mismanaged for years. We were talking about it on Continental Club in 2017. Like, is this sustainable? Is this model sustainable? Are these massive transfer fees? Are these huge wages on players like Samuel Umtiti, Coutinho, etc. sustainable? And they just haven't proved to be. And they've basically been, the club in its current guise has been completely destroyed by an executive who started out being a basketball expert on the board in Bartomeu, and who should never have been elected as president. And yet, Juan Laporta's come back, and he's doing the best he can to save a situation. But it's been years of mismanagement. But let's park like how sad it is for Messi. And one final thing on how sad it is for Messi. This has been one hell of a summer for him. Like, probably the best of his professional career in terms of a summer. Finally getting a trophy with Argentina. He comes back and then has to leave the club. And deep down, I don't think anyone really thinks that Messi wants to leave Barcelona. I don't think there's a player out there who's more attached to one single club in world football. And now he's being forced to go play away for another club. For PSG, I just don't see that his heart is really in it. Obviously, he'll do it if he has to. But, mentioning PSG, that takes us on to our next section, which is what this video is titled around, and it's whether PSG have made a sort of secret move for Messi. Now, according to reports, on Thursday evening, sources close to PSG claim Messi was way too expensive for them. But then, according to The Athletic, he then personally called Pochettino at 10 p.m. last night, and talks have commenced. So he was also photographed, I'm sure he was focused on holiday as well, but photographed on holiday with many of the PSG squad this week. It does feel like it's going to be quite difficult for PSG to pull off. They've obviously signed Ramos, Wijnaldum, Hakimi, Donnarumma, 3 of those on free transfers on massive wages. So it remains to be seen how they fit him into the wage bill. But according to The Athletic, Nasser Al-Khelaifi is determined to do it. He thinks the commercial revenue that you could generate from having Neymar, Messi, possibly Mbappe as well in the same team would be worth it in the long term. And to be honest, you can't really doubt that. Although I don't know the exact finances of how many shirts they'd sell, etc. But it would be the most mouth-watering forward line in human history. Although whether they can get Mbappe to stay, if they're spending all this money on Messi as well is another matter. Whether this opens up Mbappe to Real Madrid.
You can't deny Mbappe the chance to play with Messi, though, can you?
Yeah, I think he'd have to stay.
Maybe he'd want to stay, to be fair. And especially, why would you want to join La Liga right now? It's in an absolute state. Not just Real Madrid and Barcelona, but throughout the whole league in terms of the finances. Talk about it with Zach Lowe yesterday. Only 2 players have been signed for over 10 million euros. Like, the finances just aren't there. In terms of PSG, though, it probably means like they'll probably have to shift Icardi, Draxler, Herrera, Gay, all these players. Although it's been difficult to find suitors for the likes of them so far. Also, what does it mean for Paul Pogba as well? Does it mean that potential move to PSG is off this summer? Does it mean he leaves for free next year? We'll see what happens in terms of PSG. Obviously, that potential side is quite ridiculous, to be honest. I think it would probably be the greatest side on paper we've seen since Pep's Barcelona by a distance. I mean, Zach, I've got to ask you about the possibility of Messi coming to England. It feels pretty unlikely, though. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there was a better chance of it happening last year compared to this season. Obviously, the number one team that would have been signing him in the Premier League would have been Manchester City. But now, after the Jack Grealish move, still very interested in Harry Kane. Doesn't look like it's going to be happening. The Athletic claim they are reluctant to, after being disappointed by his 2016 U-turn and also what happened last summer, even though technically last summer wasn't really his fault. They also claim that Kane is still the number one priority, and at 6 years younger than Messi, it makes more sense. And it is understandable. However, I mean, getting Lionel Messi in the Premier League is something I would be dreaming about. I mean, it's very, very unlikely. That's the thing with the Messi situation. Like, he was willing to cut his wages to Barcelona to make it work. That's how much he loved Barca. If he goes to PSG or wherever he goes next, I doubt he's going to be so willing and so keen to cut his wages by 50%. I can't think of a player that's ever done that, let alone the greatest player in the world. I mean, for the Premier League move, I just think financially it's not possible for any club. Unless there is some sort of super way that that has yet to be known, or some owner is able to put money into the club and get around FFP or the Premier League rulings and the wage bill. Like, Jesus Christ, I think it's reported that Jack Grealish or someone was on 375k when he moved to City. I think is it De Bruyne that's now earning the most in the league. Yep. If Messi joins, it will essentially double whatever the most is at the moment. And I don't think that's something that could actually happen unless it's backdoor kind of stuff that is maybe a little bit dodgy. Who knows? Exactly. The only realistic one is PSG. But again, even then, as you mentioned, so many of the players who've just signed are on massive wages. There is no way on earth. I refuse to believe there is a possibility of Neymar signing a new contract, which you assume has more wages. I don't know whether it does or not. Kylian Mbappe is still at the club. Donnarumma's on a massive fee. Hakimi's on a massive fee. Wijnaldum's on a massive fee. Icardi gets paid loads. Di Maria still gets paid loads. Like, these guys, and then they go and sign Lionel Messi and pay him what he normally was getting at Barcelona, maybe a little bit less. Like, I just don't see a world where that happens. But if you're Messi, like, you're not just going to sit. Maybe you will, I don't know, but you're not going to just sit and not play football for a year.
You can't.
So something's got to give there. Whether Messi takes less money or whether a team sells a certain player or two to be able to legally do it. Something has to give. What it is, I'm not too sure. Which club it is, as he's mentioned, PSG is the most likely. But God, I'd love him to move to the Premier League. I'd love it so much.
I think we all would. I mean, McCubs, let's go back to La Liga. Yeah. Obviously, we did our preview show with Zach Lowy yesterday, which probably won't go out now. But we were talking La Liga yesterday, and we were all sort of umming and ahhing about how tight it was between the top three. We're probably erring towards Atletico Madrid. What do you see happening in terms of who wins La Liga now?
I mean, I predicted wholeheartedly that Barcelona were going to win it.
Well, I didn't want to throw you under the bus,
I'm very happy that has not gone live now, because obviously I didn't know what was going to happen with Lionel Messi. I assumed he was going to stay. And I assumed that Barcelona were going to be able to register their other signings as well, which is still not certain. That's still up in the air. That's still up in the air. I think you have to look at Atleti as the favourites now, purely based on stability. I think that team is still very much there. Obviously, there's talk of Saul leaving. There's talk of Kieran Trippier even maybe leaving. But for now, they've got the core. They still do have the core of that team there. They weren't great towards the end of the season, but I think the addition of Rodrigo de Paul, I think, will make them more solid in midfield. Joao Felix is a year older. I think he'll have a bigger part to play as well. So I think Atletico are still favourites, but I wouldn't write off. I think at this point, if Messi is definitely leaving Barca, I think you have to write off their chances personally. I think they'll probably be better than we think they will be without Messi, because they will not be factoring him in, and they still have a wealth of really good attacking players there. I think Antoine Griezmann will have to take a lot of responsibility, and he's good.
Fati's back.
Sorry?
Ansu
Fati will be back. Hopefully he'll be back. But I think in particular, I think Griezmann will have to take on a lot of responsibility, and he's good enough to do so. We saw him carry that Atleti attack for a good 2 years, didn't we? So I wouldn't count them out completely, but I think it's got to be between Atleti and Real. I think Real, probably similarly to last season, will just have to build off a fairly solid defence even without Ramos. I think David Alaba's a great signing. I think it's still their attack which is the worry, but I think Atleti have to go into the new season the favourites now.
Yeah, I'd back that up. I really like Atleti's composition of their midfield. I think Rodrigo de Paul's going to be a great addition in there. Marcos Llorente was obviously so crucial at the back end of last year. Sandiges and Trippier, it's a slight concern, but they do have Vršálko who can play at right back. Maybe they'd look to bring in another midfielder, another right back as well to cover there. But between Correa, Suarez, Joao Felix, we're hoping for a more consistent campaign from him as well. If he can put together 20 solid La Liga games, that'd be a first for him so far. Still very young, of course, but we'll see what happens there. But it's just a real shame, because at the start of this summer with Barcelona's free transfers, yes, the Aguero one was slightly strange, but it looked like they were going about things the right way. They were bringing in more depth at right back in Emerson Royal. They brought in one of the outstanding players in Europe in Memphis Depay on a free. and they might not even be able to register these guys. Like, what is going on at this club? I feel so sorry for Barcelona fans. And to be honest, I've never been particularly, I've never really felt sorry for Barcelona fans in the past, to be honest. I think they've had enough success over the last 10 years that watching them go through a little dip was quite enjoyable. But when they've been ruined by factors completely out of their hands, potentially which could affect them for the next, 5 to 10 years, it's pretty brutal in a club of that stature. So I feel pretty bad for them. Real Madrid, I'm less sure on Real Madrid than you are, to be honest. I think Real Madrid might struggle this year. I really think they've sold their USP, which was their best defence, or one of the best defences in La Liga. I think they conceded close to 20 fewer La Liga goals than Barcelona over the last 2 years. So I just think they've made a mistake, really, by not bringing in another centre-back to date as it is, although Eder Militao did improve towards the back end of last year. Okay, guys, to wrap up, I just want to ask you one simple question. Zach, is Lionel Messi leaving Barcelona?
Yes.
And where's he going? PSG?
Chelsea, why not? PSG. PSG.
McCubs, is it over?
My heart's still saying no, but my head is increasingly saying yes. Yeah.
You know who looks like a right mug? I tweeted yesterday before his departure was announced, when it was talking about Messi's potentially signing a new contract. I was like, I actually just don't care about his new contract anymore.
Yeah, you did.
And like 10 minutes later, it was Comunicado official. Messi leaves Barcelona. I was like, oh, dude.
But you know, they were waiting for your tweet, dude. Because you jinx everything.
I know. I've had another mayor on Twitter. I think I should just deactivate my account. It's just one big jinx after another. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching Continental Club for this week. I'm sorry you didn't have the preview with Zach Lowy. Hopefully we'll be able to get him on next week or a future week, because his insight is brilliant. But it was great in the end to be able to break down the Messi situation with McCubs and Zach. McCubs, if they've enjoyed this, what should they go and watch now?
They should go over to We Need to Talk, because Joe is breaking down the Messi situation over on there. A bit of a different take to what we're doing. Go and check out our FD Explained from last weekend on Chelsea and why they've sold so many young players this summer. I think that's about it from me.
Nice. And I know what you'll be covering on Snapchat for the next week, Zach.
Lionel Messi, baby. Go over there, Snapchat, type Football Daily, and check us out.
Perfect. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye.